Have we finally taught light to tell the truth? For 2,000 years, a hole and a wall were enough to argue that light could be made to stop for a while and show us something we did not yet own. Mosey watched a small inverted world appear on a shadowed plane and called it demonstration. Nipsey waited 8 hours for a ghost to glue itself to a metal plate and called that ghost a first photograph. What changed between those two acts and the phone in your pocket? Is it merely fidelity, or has the nature of representation altered as the tools have grown smarter? My claim is simple and slippery. Each generational improvement in imaging does not only increase clarity, it rearranges what we consider real. The pinhole taught humility. The silver plate taught danger. The roll film taught ritual and scarcity. The sensor taught accessibility and a new appetite for omniscience. But what does ProRAW do differently? What does raw video mean for the archive of tomorrow? If details can be hoarded as data, who decides which details are preserved and which are flattened into pleasing color? The first section is about trust. We once trusted a single emotion or a practiced darkroom hand to render a scene honestly. Later, we trusted algorithms. Does trust migrate from the craftsperson to the machine? When Apple embeds tone-mapped curves into a ProRAW file, what is being signed? Is the signature photographic truth or a design choice that shapes mood and memory? Consider a city at dusk where highlights flare and shadows swallow. Do we prefer the euphoric flattening that keeps everything legible, or the brutal authenticity that exposes noise and imperfection? Which memory will feel truer 20 years from now? The second section concerns scarcity and abundance. For a monarch, a portrait was an event. For a 1990s traveler, a roll of film demanded care. Today, a child is born into a continuous index of light. Does abundance mean better history or diluted meaning? If every birthday, meal, and expression is captured, how does selection function? Who curates the archive of a life when the archive expands by orders of magnitude? What will historians sift out when confronted with terabytes of domestic imagery? Will they find patterns or just a fog of attention? The third section centers on intimacy and exposure. Phones record moments that were once private. A handheld camera mapped the contours of our daily rituals into shareable artifacts. Center stage and wider lenses rearrange the frame so our faces are smaller and our rooms larger. Does that change the intimacy between subject and observer? When pearlescent filters soften skin and computational sharpening sculpts eyelids, are we learning to remember ourselves as we wish to be or as we were? How much agency do subjects retain when the device anticipates flattering angles before we know we want them? The fourth section tackles the idea of the negative returned. ProRes RAW is not merely higher resolution. It is a resurrection of the negative in digital form. A negative keeps potential. It contains the raw gradations that later devices and algorithms may coax into new truths. If raw video demands external SSDs and specialist skills today, will it become tomorrow's common language for cultural memory? What happens when machine learning and superior demosaicing remix those negatives to produce versions our original eyes did not witness? Will restoration be collaboration or revision? The fifth part asks about presence and dimensionality. Software now sweeps colored light across flat photos and makes them seem three-dimensional on a screen. Vision Pro can pull an image into space and make an ordinary meal feel like a place. How will that marriage of depth and motion shift our relationship with photographs? Is the image becoming an environment rather than a trace? If photos live as objects in mixed reality, what ethical frame governs consent and context? Who owns a spatial picture when it can be placed in private rooms worldwide? Finally, the essay returns to memory and value. We have democratized photography until everyone is both archivist and oblivious. We have given amateurs tools that flirt with cinema and restored movies to new fidelity because someone kept the negatives. Which future deserves our attention? One in which technical fidelity is venerated, or one in which curation, selection, and narrative regain their role? Can we teach restraint alongside capability? Does the presence of perfect data alleviate the need for interpretation, or does it heighten it? The concluding question remains deliberately unresolved. If technology hands us the power to save everything, how will we choose what matters? Will the post-photographic age be defined by abundance or by the subtle art of choosing what to keep in the darkroom of memory? What will it mean to remember when remembering can be algorithmically refined, color-graded, and spatialized? The future offers both emancipation and erosion. Which will we accept? Consider then the social architecture surrounding images. Platforms, markets, museums, and legal regimes will decide what survives. Who trains the algorithms that rank frames into feeds? Who funds the archivists who must curate terabytes into artifacts? If attention becomes currency, how will market forces shape what we remember and what we discard? Can public repositories be designed to resist monetization and commercial capture? What duties do companies hold when their devices alter skin tones, shift colors, and render landscapes into stylized commodities? Should there be standards for provenance and traceability the way libraries developed practice? Or must we accept that every image is a hybrid of authorship, algorithm, and infrastructure? How should visual literacy evolve? Should it teach demosaicing, color pipelines, and dataset bias as part of core curricula? Will schools encourage asking not only what a picture shows, but which pipeline produced it, what edits were applied, and what was omitted? If cameras become instruments of moral imagination, how will we train citizens to read images with rigor, skepticism, and humane attention? Who will guard the archive?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the latest update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.